to BS of the Week, episode 42. We've just finished the divisional round of the playoffs, headed into the conference round. I'm Patrick Driggett, coach of the Berlin Fire, and today I'm not joined by anybody. Kev and I are kind of off schedule. We're doing things for the summer, have different family engagements, and so we've agreed that I'll just record this one by myself. So this is not our normal day or anything, and just want to make sure that we got this out to y'all. So first off, let's talk about the PFC. Review those games of the divisional round. So the first we had the Packers at the Eagles. We thought this one would be close, and we know some people thought the Eagles would have the edge being the home team, and it certainly didn't disappoint. The Packers started with the ball, but it was the Eagles who struck first with a 47-yard field goal on their first possession. And the Packers struck back with a touchdown on the very next possession, but missed the extra point to go up 6-3. In the second quarter, the Eagles tied it up at the end of a very long drive that left them settling for a field goal. And then the Packers responded again with a long touchdown, and with a combination of an outside run and short passes, which put them up 13-6. This put both teams into halftime, and it was a one-score game. Much to the fans' excitement, it was very close. The Eagles got the ball to start the second half, and in a long 13-play drive that included a failed sweep on second and inches that set up yet another field goal. That brought the game a bit closer, and then the next drive, the Eagles' defense knew they needed to make something happen, and they did by intercepting the Packers only 5 yards from the end zone. Just kind of bend, don't break, got that ball back, and Marcelo led off with a huge 62-yard draw to start the drive, and then that drive ended with a touchdown, and they gained the lead finally 13-16. And then headed into the fourth quarter, the Packers finished another long 13-play drive of their own to score off of a 6-yard option to reclaim the lead 2016 after the extra point. Neither team was willing to concede, and the Eagles responded with a beautiful drive of their own that ended up on a touchdown to go up 20-23. At 51 minutes and 50 seconds, the Packers got possession and drove down the field with a purpose, including a 25-yard quick pass and a 36-yard pitch to set up another touchdown and extra point to take the lead 27-23. Try as they might, the hometown team, the Eagles went for it on 4th and 4, and only 15 yards from pay dirt. Unfortunately, the defense read the short pass and were able to shut it down, and the Packers won on the road 27-23, and they get to move on to the conference finals. Congratulations to them. That was a hard-fought game. Could have gone either way. I think, this was a hard one to call, I think, for everybody ahead of time. So, but congrats to Tom Watt and the Packers. On the other side of the PFC divisions, we had the Rapiers at the Rivets. Unfortunately, this game was a bit harder to watch. The previous one was very competitive. This one, Lincoln, we knew was going to give their best, but against the Rivets, that wasn't enough. The Rivets' very first play was a touchdown, and by the end of the first quarter, they were up 17-0. Second quarter went about the same, and when they headed into the locker room, the Rivets were staring at a 31-point deficit, which is, as much as you never say it's over, it's as over as it can kind of get. In the second half, the Rivets managed to score again, but finally the Rapiers kind of got something on the board. They were able to score, but at that point it was 7-38 in the Rivets' advantage, and the game was all but unsurmountable at that point. Though the Rivets never scored again after reaching 38, they were only able to get one more touchdown, the Rapiers were, and unfortunately that was all that the Rivets needed to send Lincoln home from the tournament and move on to the conference championships. Over on the LFC, we had my Fire against the Giant Hornets. I have to be honest, I knew we had almost no chance against the Hornets, but we did give it our all. I think some people probably imagine that I'm pretty much a pessimist, but I'll talk about that in a second. I think despite having a defense that kept the Hornets at a 50% completion percentage, which is really low for their passing, it was still a beatdown. The Giant Hornets defense is absolutely massive, and they were more than happy to stop us and keep giving the ball back to the Giant Hornets to try again. Um, you know, I really didn't think we could make the playoffs this year, and to get eliminated by the Giant Hornets in the divisional round and to move on from the wild card round, I couldn't have asked for a better season for the Fire. Congrats to Coach Andrew, whose Giant Hornets won 32-9 against my Fire, and they go off to compete in the conference championships next week. Um, Last, we have the Weasels at the Statesmen. The odds makers saw this as a close one, and I'm not sure I agreed with that. I don't think some people did, but I think everyone is intrigued about this. And it seemed like destiny was on the Weasels' side as the Statesmen opening possession ended with a fumble on the very first play. Fortunately, the Statesmen were able to stop the Weasels on that and get a do-over. Yardage was really hard to come by against a really stalwart Weasels defense, and disaster struck as a 42-yard punt was returned by Hardy of the Weasels, who took it to the house 63 yards. And on a special play that the Weasels special teams had been planning all season, the Statesmen attempt to stabilize, and after a long drive, they were able to put together a field goal and bring the game 7-3. They were even able to intercept the ball with a nice 25-yard return to close out the first quarter. After a quick talking to on the sidelines, the Statesmen put together a great drive to go up 10-7. And I think that's where they probably felt like they finally calmed things down a little bit. The Weasels took possession and were forced to punt after a couple of quick first downs. The Weasels' defense, though, held real firm again, and the Statesmen went 4 and out. And then disaster struck again. The Statesmen punted to the Weasels, and Hardy returned yet another punt for 66 yards and a score, with the Weasels regaining the lead 14-10. Later in the second, they managed to score another field goal to make it a true one-score game, so they went into halftime leading 17-10. In the second half, the Weasels came out, got the ball to start, and immediately struck gold with a 20-yard quick pass to Ever that scored on their fifth play of their drive. And at that point, they were up a very respectable 24-10. The Statesmen weren't going to give up, though, and after bringing out their heavy set on a goal line attempt, they scored with a beautiful counter from running back Patrick, bringing the score to Weasels 24, Statesmen 17 after the extra point. Both defenses settled down, however, and the ball really went back and forth. Possession was kind of bouncing back and forth for the next 5 possessions in that quarter. In the fourth quarter, the Statesmen knew their time was short, and the crowd were behind them. They were the home team. And after putting together a spectacular drive, they managed to score a touchdown and an extra point to tie the game up at 24. And their defense held firm. And on the Weasels' next possession, they were forced to a 4 and out. And they regained the ball on the opponent's 43 and turned that drive into 3 points. So now they were up 3 over the Weasels, 27-24. And with only 50 seconds to go, they were up by 3. And so far the defenses have really been holding strong. The Weasels took that touchback. They started on their own 20. First, Langston scrambles for 8 yards, and then he was able to stop the clock by running out of bounds, which showed a lot of great clock awareness and end game settings. And with time to huddle up and catch their breath, the Weasels then chose to throw it up, hitting Chevalier on a streak up the left side, and they were able to get 35 yards, and he was able to run out of bounds on that one to stop the clock. And with only 10 seconds to go, in field goal range, instead of tying it up with the field goal and going to overtime and leaving things to chance, they went for glory, and they threw another streak, and this time right side streak 37 yards for a touchdown, and they closed out the game 30-27, Weasels winning against the favored Statesmen in a pretty shocking upset, I think. The Weasels won to head to the conference championships to face the Giant Hornets. So let's talk about those games. On the PFC side, their championship game is the Packers at the Rivets. Last year we saw an inspired Packers team almost take out the Rivets during the playoffs. I mean, they looked really good. It was real close. And And I think while many people predicted the Rivets to decline now in season 36, they've weathered that aging storm and they're still the team to beat. They look amazing. The odds makers are putting this at a spread of 16, which is pretty huge. So the Packers do have an uphill battle. Um, you know, the Packers have the number one offense by yards, but unfortunately, there's no eggs left for any basket in the defense, and they're ranked 32 by yardage. And I think that's really tough against a Rivets team that have a great defense themselves. If the Packers can make it a shootout, they do have a chance, but it kind of looks bleak. The Rivets defense, you can't ignore it. Conrad seems determined as ever to go for another trophy, and I think even if it is a shootout, I think that'll make it an exciting game. But I have to give it to the Rivets at home. But stranger things have happened, so we history's not written yet, right? Over on the LFC side, we have the Weasels at the Giant Hornets. Um, there's a similar situation where an upset team, uh, you know, that were visiting the home team in the last round, come to the number one seed and have a 16-point spread, exactly like the other game. With the home team favored, the Giant Hornets are favored by 16. Um, each team is kind of carrying a small amount of B injuries, nothing really enough to impact the game, decide the game. The Giant Hornets defense is absolutely phenomenal. And the Weasels have a phenomenal defense. Ben Harris is coming to the Big Sky with a bang, and honestly, after beating the Statesman, I don't think we can rule anything out. However, if I were a betting man, I would put my money on the Giant Hornets. They just seem to have all the answers and a super strong season, and I think their eyes are towards the Rivets. And I think this is going to be a fun game to watch. I'm excited to see what the Weasels can do against the Giant Hornets. Um, I just don't know that they can make it happen, but let's see. Um, that's all I've got this week. I don't have anybody to bounce anything off of. Right now you can put in poaching offers for coaches, so make sure you look into that and try to shore up weaknesses, or if anybody's leaving, try to see if you can get a good deal. It's towards the end of the season, so get your votes in for MVP with Ben Dugan. I know he's been putting some messages out there so that we can figure out who our Big Sky MVP is. Yeah, and looks to be an exciting conference week, and look forward to seeing you all. There may be some weird delays as my family's coming in for the summer, and Kev is doing his thing, so hopefully I'll see you next week. We'll see if I can make it happen. But if not, lots of love to y'all who watch the show. I hope that you have a good one, and this week I will actually try to put the correct link in the gridiron.com sound bites. Hope you all have a good one. Bye.